Personal story segment tonight. Former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney has a new bestseller out called No Apology, The Case for American Greatness, #1 on the New York Times list. In addition, Governor Romney is considered to be one of the front runners for the 2012 presidential nomination on the Republican side. He joins us now. First of all, I've got two segments with you. I want to talk about how you would run against Barack Obama if the election were in process right now. But I want to know about this MassachusettsCare, because this is a preview of ObamaCare. You were the governor. You signed MassachusettsCare into law. But now it looks like it's a fiscal disaster. According to Tim Cahill, Massachusetts State Treasurer. You know Tim, right? Mm-hmm. Is he a good guy?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
All right, you like him?
Yeah.
Okay. You're hesitating, but okay.
Well, no, on a personal basis, he's a Democrat.
He's saying that MassCare was estimated to cost taxpayers $88 million a year, but since 2006, the costs have risen in 4 years to $4 billion. This is what Cahill is saying. Okay, we don't want to argue stats, but there's no doubt that Massachusetts is in big financial trouble because of the universal health care, is there not?
No, that actually isn't quite accurate, but this is the no-spin zone, so I'll tell it to you straight, which is when the legislature put the final caps on their bill, the estimate was it would cost 1.5% of the state budget, and that's exactly what it cost last year. As a matter of fact, in the 2010 fiscal year, it's $80 million below budget, so it's within the state's budget. Our income tax rate in Massachusetts is 5.3%. Hasn't had to go up. The governor's been raising taxes, as Democrats do in other places. But this is a measure that cost about what it was expected to cost, and it's very different than Obamacare in a couple of important ways.
Okay, but the governor, Deval Patrick, is asking the feds for $450 million to bail out Massachusetts universal health care now. They say they can't meet their expenses unless the feds, and that means people in Idaho, are paying for Bay Staters to get health care. Is that wrong?
No, actually, from the very beginning, the plan was a 50-50 deal between the federal government and the state government.
Okay, so the feds fund half of it.
The feds fund half of it. They have from the very beginning. It originally was signed by Tommy Thompson, Republican, then by Mike Leavitt, a Republican.
Is that fair, though?
The deal is that everybody gets the opportunity to get private market-based health insurance, and this is not something funded by the federal government. We're taking money that normally goes to pay for people who get free care. Something most people don't recognize in America is we have universal health care. People go to the hospital and they get treated for free, and we said, look,
in Massachusetts, since the health care has been signed into law, emergency rooms costs have risen 17% in the last 2 years. So the myth, and I think it's a myth, that this emergency thing will go down when you have Obamacare, it's not proven in Massachusetts. Emergency room things are up.
Well, I'll look at the emergency room numbers.
Okay, I'm not here to do a gotcha with you, but there's another stat that's fascinating as well. Massachusetts has the highest per capita health care costs in the union, in the nation.
And it did before the bill was passed, too.
But isn't it supposed to bring the costs down?
No. What the bill did was to say, look, we're going to solve a problem at the state level. Two big things that are very different than Obamacare. One is states should be able to solve state problems. The federal government should not step in, as the president has, take away the right of states. We solved our problem on a bipartisan basis. We also had the business community, the healthcare community come together with great support. It continues to have great support.
You say you solved the problem.
We have our citizens insured, and it's exactly within the budget range that was put in place.
Okay,
so, you know, it's doing what it's supposed to do.
You know me, I'm a simple man, okay? You say you solved the problem in the state, but you're depending on 50% of your funding from the feds.
As we did from the beginning.
Okay, I'm just telling you, I don't know if you solved the problem or the people in Idaho solved it.
But what we did is we took the money the feds used to send to us to give to the hospitals that were giving out free care. The hospitals were doing that before, and we said, look, can we take that money that you give to us that we give to the hospitals, and instead of giving it to hospitals, we're going to use it to help people buy insurance.
One more,
so it was not a new burden. It was not a new burden on the federal government. It was a redirection of what they've been doing before.
Now, the president says Obamacare is going to bring health costs down. The opposite has happened in Massachusetts. Health costs have gone up, $13,000 plus per capita. So I'm saying if health care costs went up in universal health care in the Bay State, they're going to go up in the United States. Am I sadly misguided?
Health care costs in Massachusetts were high before the bill that got people insured, and they're high afterwards.
They're the highest.
They were the highest before, and they're the highest afterwards.
But it didn't bring them down.
No, it did not bring them down.
Right.
And Obamacare is not going to bring down health care costs.
It's going to make them go up.
Obamacare is going to make health care costs go up. Obamacare does two very detrimental. Well, the president is doing it because he ultimately wants to have the federal government take control of health care.
Okay, but he says they're going to bring health care costs down. You say they're going up.
No one believes that. No one believes that he's actually going to reduce health care costs in America.
Nancy Pelosi believes it?
No, she doesn't believe it. She says it. She says it.
She's a
no
liar.
one believes that the taxes are going to go down. No one believes that the budget is going to get balanced with this health care plan. It's going to be a huge entitlement, which is the federal government taking power away from the states. We solved our problem at the state level. We did it without raising taxes. That's the key.
All right, Governor, we're going to hold you over because I want to know how you, if you were running against the president now, would go after him. So we'll have more with Governor Romney in a moment. And then later on, the factor, Britt Hume will react to what the governor is saying, and Britt will have also a rundown on Barack Obama's week. Coming right back. Now with former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney, whose new book, No Apology, The Case for American Greatness, is a big bestseller. So, Governor, if you were running today against Barack Obama, say the campaign was in full swing, what do you think his weak points are?
Well, whoever's running against Barack Obama, the weak point is that he is not focused on the economy. The key issue that America faces and has faced during his entire presidency has been getting jobs for Americans. And instead of focusing on that from day one and meeting with top business leaders and small business leaders and economists and saying, what do we do to actually create jobs? He used all of his time and political capital to campaign on Capitol Hill and around the country for his health care takeover. So he took a liberal agenda as opposed to working for the American people.
But it's hard to convince cynical Americans on both sides of the aisle that you, Mitt Romney, or any other political candidate can drop unemployment, can create more jobs. That's a hard thing to do.
It's a hard thing to do, but it's possible when you spend $787 billion like he did.
Well, you're going to have a chart.
He went out there, like a Ross Perot chart.
Right.
The truth of the matter is you can create jobs by encouraging businesses through tax policy to start.
Sure. Tax cuts can do it.
Tax cuts, saying to them, for instance, if you want to buy any capital equipment this year, we're going to let you expense it for tax purposes this year. That puts people to work right away.
But the national debt's going off the cliff.
Yeah. Right.
So if you cut taxes, that means you have less revenue, and the bankruptcy specter becomes even larger.
No question. A broad-based tax rate reduction would increase the growth of our economy and help build our economy and help fill the federal coffers. But the right thing to do immediately is to put us to work by reducing the burdens that businesses face in hiring people and in buying equipment. That's the right course he should have taken. He borrowed all that money, $787 billion, and not one new net job in the private sector. The only sector that grew was government. That's the one sector that should have shrunk.
Now,
so we're going to reduce our burden downtown, down the road.
Say you do get the nomination. Are you going to go after him as being soft on terrorism and things like that? Because by the time 12 comes around, Iran will be defined. There'll either be a nuclear power or we would have had to take some kind of drastic action. So I'm going to ask you point blank, would you take military action if Iran will not stop its nuclear program? Would you as president order military action? Nothing else works. You try everything. Nothing else works. Will you take the military action?
I would certainly have a military option on the table as an option to take. No question about that. As to whether or not you take it depends on the military capacity to actually remove the threat, their capacity to respond, and so forth.
But if you don't take it, they get the nukes.
We do not. It is not acceptable for them to have nukes. But the real question is, why has this president not used his strength with China, with Russia, for instance, by giving in?
You think that he can tell the Chinese what to do?
They need access to our market in order to live. No. And the Russians, the number one thing the Russians wanted from us was to remove the missile defense shield that we were going to build in the Czech Republic and Poland. And the president gave them that. Right. He gave them that and got nothing. Shame on him. He should have insisted that they agree with us on tough, crippling sanctions on Iran. The right course in Iran is not a military action. The right course in Iran is crippling sanctions, to strangle them.
But I don't think you can force China to do it.
Well, if you can get Russia, China doesn't want to be the odd man out. China also wants to have access to our market. Doesn't want to have a slowdown of any kind.
So you would threaten the Chinese and say, look, we're going to put tariffs up against you if you don't do this? Because our economy would tank.
Look, I don't want to get in a trade war with anyone.
Right.
But I also am not willing to live with Iran having a nuclear weapon. Recognize that Iran having a nuclear weapon is not the end of things. It's proliferation's open door. It means that you're going to have Syria and Egypt and Saudi Arabia. Everybody's going to be having nuclear weapons.
It's a nuclear umbrella situation.
It's an unacceptable course. America cannot just stand by and let nothing be done to prevent it.
All right. Karzai's a crook in Afghanistan. And do you think that we can win that with the corrupt Afghan government in Kabul?
Well, I think the president has made it very difficult for our troop surge there. He was right to accept a troop surge, even though he voted against one in Iraq, where it was successful. He was right to do it in Afghanistan, but he handicapped it badly by doing two things. One, announcing the day he's pulling out. So if I'm Karzai, I say, holy cow, before the job is done, these guys are going to leave. What does that mean about my life and livelihood? Number two, he did not secure the elections in Afghanistan to make sure they were fair and non-corrupt. And as a result, we have a president who's not wild about us, and people who wonder whether their president is a legitimate president.
Do you think we can pull it out over there?
I think it's more difficult by virtue of the president's mistakes. I think our fighting men and women will do everything in their power, but gosh, this strict deadline to pull out our troops is a huge mistake.
All right. Well, I hope you could drop in from time to time to see us. It's going to be very interesting what happens in the next couple of years. Governor, thanks very much. Congratulations on the success of your book.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay.